AI can already write quizzes, lessons, even whole courses. So do we still need teachers and trainers in the age of AI? I get asked this a lot. Will the role of developer educator still exist in 5 years' time? Hi, I'm Kevin, a developer educator, and I'm on a mission to help developers share their knowledge in the most impactful ways possible. And this question is really close to my heart. So is AI going to put me out of a job? Let's explore this together. First up, information versus education. LLMs are fantastic at delivering information at scale. You ask a question, here's your answer. And the answer comes quickly, but it doesn't always come with the most accuracy. Sure, you can improve your prompts and improve your context and get better results. But that relies on the learner, the person asking the question, to actually know what they don't know already, to be able to bring something to the table. Teaching's different. It's not about dumping information into people's brains. It's about guiding and motivating and contextualizing what is being taught. My role isn't to hand out facts. It's to craft training that can most effectively allow people to take facts and information and turn it into understanding and action. I want students to walk away with a map that can help them to navigate this new learning space, or to understand more deeply this technical topic that they already have some awareness of. And with that map, they can use AI to zoom in more, to ask better questions, because they know where that particular question fits in the whole landscape. Second, adaptability and calibration. I've started plenty of conversations with an LLM with kind of a generic, non-specific question. How do I download files with Python? Or how do I set up a web server in Node.js? And the response I get back is okay, but it's kind of generic and it may not actually speak to what I need. If I'm working at BBC and I need to be concerned with uptime and constant availability, that's a slightly different concern than if I'm working at CERN, where we're thinking about processing large amounts of experimental data. A web server has different roles there, needs different considerations. Small amount of user data on one end and large amounts of experimental data on another. And both of those require different approaches. Now, I can prompt my LLM with more context and better prompts for them to know, this is what I need to do, and this is a better, more specific answer. But as a trainer stepping into that situation, I know the context. I can read the room. I can calibrate to the sort of blank expressions or the bored expressions or the body language that's going on, and pick better examples or go deeper on a particular example that seems to be clicking and use that as a through line. An LLM can't calibrate unless you give it something to calibrate. And unless you are prompting your LLM to ask you more questions before it answers, to challenge its assumptions before it goes ahead, then it's kind of just going to give you the most generic response. But trainers are in a virtual or physical space with other humans and are able to make better judgments about how to adapt, how to calibrate what's going on, not just to the context of an engineering company versus a broadcasting company, not just to a university context or a corporate context, but also to the humans that are there and noticing the spread of abilities, the examples that are clicking and doing that together. Back when I was teaching maths, I would often say to my students, look, it's my job to make sure that you understand this before you leave. It's your job to tell me if you don't understand it yet. I can't reach into your brain. You need to tell me. And if you say, I don't get it yet, I'm not just going to shout it louder and hope that you then get it. Instead, I'm going to look for a different example or metaphor, a way to be able to make this click. And that's the same when I'm teaching developers. I'm saying to them, look, I want you to understand this. I want you to know what's going on here. And if I haven't made it clear, if you don't understand it, that's on me. But if you leave here and you haven't told me you don't understand it, well, that's your role. You need to tell me, and we'll make this work. We'll make sure you understand this, you grasp this, that this knowledge is actually real to you, rather than something that Kevin was just talking away at for 20 minutes and feeling a little bit lost. And the third thing is kind of related. It's about human connection and trust. If I showed up at a conference and it was just a series of LLM generated talks, I'd feel pretty hard done by. Even more so if it was just an LLM speaking, some kind of like video generation, we're just watching that. Because that's not why we go to conferences. We go to conferences to hear real life stories from people who are kind of in the trenches and to engage with other developers. I come as someone who is a developer, so I've got technical expertise, but also I'm engaging with lots of development teams in the UK and across Europe to help them solve problems. And the problems I'm solving and helping folks solve in one space have overlap or parallels or lessons that I can help draw attention to in an industry that might not share the same expertise. I'm able to build connection with the people in the room and to be there, to be present, and to hopefully build trust. That it's okay to ask questions, that it's okay if it goes wrong, that we can fix it. When used inexpertly, AI tools can sometimes just destroy whole code bases. They delete things, they remove things, and don't always explain what or why they're doing it. But if I can help folks trust not just me, but themselves and the other people in the room, then they're going to be much more understanding and know much more clearly when the AI has got it wrong and how to fix it and where it might have gone wrong and what question to ask it or to prompt it with. Oh, did you think we were, and so on. By forging that human connection and trust in a training space, I hope that that can continue among this group of developers as they go back to their day-to-day job, that they can keep asking each other what's going on. But I hope then that they can trust themselves so that when the AI says something that doesn't seem right, they can ask again, they can re-prompt, they can say, are you sure? And trust that it's okay to keep asking until it's clear. Also, if I can model to folks that they can keep asking questions and I can explain it in a different way, they can bring that to their AI as well and say, look, I don't understand that. Could you explain it again to me differently? As if I am 5, or as if I am a scientist, or as if I'm an engineer, or as if I'm someone working in a broadcasting company. All of these things that I'm doing as a human in the room, when people leave and use AI afterwards, then they can hopefully leverage those same type of questions, those same style of inquiring as what's going on. When the first chatbot, Eliza, was sort of doing sort of therapy, it would often just repeat the same phrases over and over and over again in order to build empathy. You know, that sounds hard. Oh, tell me more about that. And it was kind of a bit of a joke because that's what therapists often sounded like. And AI still does that a little bit. It kind of agrees with you. It might say, oh, well done, or it tries to build some kind of connection. I think that as humans, we still have the upper hand there. I'm building empathy, not just by repeating back what people are saying, but I'm actively listening and watching, picking up on body language. Sometimes I'm in classrooms in Switzerland where there's multiple languages going on, and so we're engaging in multiple languages to be able to do that. And being human in that space, I think, allows me to build better connection, even if it is with my really bad jokes. Fourth, I think critical thinking and values. I come into a space where I'm bringing my values of someone who believes in privacy and who cares about how software is used in the world and in sort of energy efficient ways, in ways that are useful for humanity. And so I'm bringing that with me when I step into teaching a technical course. AI can give us options. They can sometimes give us pros and cons, but again, unless you're constantly asking and specifically saying, can you tell me from an ethical point of view, or can you tell me from a values point of view, which is the best, which is better? I think as a human, I can bring my opinions, and not as the source of all knowledge, but as someone who's there not just to pass on knowledge, but to challenge and to say, which of these do you think is more ethical and why? And why does it matter to be ethical when we're developing software? Is there ethics involved here, and how can we do that? I do a lot of training with companies who are thinking about bringing AI into their tool chains. And I spend a lot of time thinking about the ethical considerations. How is the data trained? Where are you using AI? Are there humans in the loop? Is it just ticking yes and accepting what the AI is saying? I want to make sure that if, as we use software and software enhanced with AI, are we doing it in a way which is good for humanity? And I think as a human who's stepping in there, who has thought about these issues and continues to think with and engage with these issues, I'm going to help push and challenge that a bit more than an AI will, who just wants to answer your question in the smallest amount of tokens possible. Finally, I'd say AI is a tool and not a replacement. I think that's probably where I'm getting to. I use AI a lot. I use local models, I use remote models, I use an IDE that's got enhanced AI capabilities in it. But it doesn't replace my thinking. It doesn't replace me. It's a tool rather than an enhancement. I started teaching maths to secondary school kids in 2004, and calculators had been around for a while, but there are still some of my colleagues who were super grumpy about them. They're like, oh, these kids just don't know how to add up anymore, and they don't know their times tables like they used to. And I think I was coming in there as someone who kind of grew up with calculators, using calculators. I think what became clear is that the maths teacher wasn't replaced by a calculator. Instead, they were changed. What they did changed. It wasn't about being able to do long division of recurring decimals, although sometimes we did do that because it appeared on non-calculator papers. But instead, it was about the thinking. It was about how this works, why we care, why this calculator does what it does. And I see AI a lot like that, not as a replacement for thinking, but as a tool to help with thinking. There are a couple of reports around that say that AI is making us a bit dumber. But I think used well, it can actually enhance what we're doing. Rather than a crutch or a replacement for thinking, it can be a tool to allow us to go deeper and further, to not do the boring stuff, and to focus on the things that have more meaning and more impact. And that's similar to calculators. I don't have to pull out a log table to be able to do large multiplications. I can type it into a calculator and trust that I'm going to get the right answer. As a trainer, then, I'm able to focus on helping people think, to encourage them to ask the right questions, to know where the gaps are in their knowledge. And with that map that we're growing together, that we're sort of drawing together and having a look at the landscape, to know what they should be asking AI and how they can make sure that it's not leading them down a garden path somewhere. So do we still need teachers in the age of AI? I might be biased, but I think the answer is absolutely yes. The role's evolving, and I think we're maybe shifting from having to download all of the knowledge to make sure people are leaving with everything that they need. Instead, we're coaching and mentoring and working alongside folks to get that map, to know which questions to ask and know how they can trust themselves as they step into either using this new technology or using it in a different, more enhanced way. I think that's what creates deep and lasting learning, which gets me super excited. What about you? Would you take a course that was an AI animated video on the screen talking you through things? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. As always, keep doing and keep learning, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.